Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Aretha Franklin, please dance your way into the tent. Enjoy Tahoe Downer. Good morning. Having achieved quorum, I call the annual meeting of the Tahoe Downer Association to order. I'm Don Kunis, President of the Association. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I am honored to introduce John Dundas, veteran of the U.S. Army, 1969 to 1992, to lead us in the pledge. Thank you. I would like to begin with some introductions. I would like to recognize our committee chairs. And as I read off the committee chairs, any members of the committee, if you would stand as I read off the committee chair, and then everybody remain standing, and we will recognize you. Architectural Standards, Chairman Rod Whitten. Covenants, Don Ermack. Finance, John Dundas. Long Range Planning, Jim Beckmeyer. Giving Fund, Marcia Agris. Elections, she may be in the back room counting, Nan Carnell. Trails and Open Space, Benjamin Levine. Please, all of our volunteers. Would also like to recognize honored guests. We have Jan Zabriskie with the Town of Truckee Town Council, and Jennifer Calloway, Town of Truckee Town Manager. With that, I would like to now introduce your Board of Directors. We have Vice President Courtney Morrell, Treasurer Steve Mahoney. Greetings to Jim Roth, our Secretary in Alaska, and Director Charles Wu. And with that, I would like to introduce our General Manager, David McCallion. And David, please recognize our outgoing directors, not outgoing necessarily, but those directors who have completed a 3-year term.
So we have a nice parting gift for Director Wu and for Mr. Roth, who isn't here today. But I really appreciate the work that these board members do on your behalf. I'm here every single day. Well, not every day. I have weekends off sometimes. But really seeing the amount of work that these board members put in to serving you is quite remarkable. They don't get paid. They're working extensively in off hours. It's just really something I'm not sure the entire association really understands the commitment these folks make to you. So it's a small token of our appreciation, Director Wu, but here we have something for you, and really appreciate all the hard work you've done for us. And just so we're clear, they're finishing their 3-year term, so we don't know what the election is going to hold for Director Ross, so there's no foreshadowing into this by any stretch. So with that, I just also wanted to introduce our staff, your staff. Annie Rosenthal, our Director of Administrative Services. Annie, where are you? She's somewhere, but Annie's been here for a number of years, and really go to her quite a bit for understanding what's happening in the association. We have Todd Martin Jones, our Director of Finance. Miguel Sloan, Director of Operations. John Mitchell, Director of Capital Projects, who's not here today. He's with his daughter at a tournament in Salt Lake. John Groom, Director of Land Management, so all questions, forestry, trails and open space, John Groom is your guy. Lindsay Hogan, Director of Communication Media Relations. Lindsay, in the back. Maya Cottrell, our Director of IT, making sure everything's working. And of course, who could forget Steve Turner, our Director of Food and Beverage. So Steve's in the back there too. So with that, I just wanted to, but these folks will be around here today throughout the presentation and afterwards having lunch, and by all means, make sure you ask them whatever you want to ask them. So with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Don.
Thank you. And as a reminder, if you haven't cast your ballot yet, you can immediately behind us, and that is open until 11 a.m. And for those that are candidates, thank you very much for the dedication that you've already shown in running. Fair warning, in terms of pay, we do get paid. It's anguish, and we get a pay increase every year. And this is your last chance to bow out, including the organizational meeting immediately following this. We've had 5 board meetings in 10 days. So please stand. I want you to shout out at the top of your lungs so that they hear us at the top of ski slope and at the bottom of Northwoods. Good morning, Tahoe Donner.
Good morning, Tahoe Donner.
Thank you. Stay standing. First of all, congratulations. In my script, I was encouraging you a second time. You did great the first time. Second, before you sit down, I want you to turn around, find someone you don't know, shake their hand, or whatever's the appropriate greeting that you're comfortable with, and introduce yourself. I love it that everybody's talking, but I also want to keep us on schedule. So you may now sit and relax and take a look at the screen, because the pictures that you're going to see over the next 10 minutes are all provided by members. Thank you for being here and being part of Tahoe Donner. This is our annual membership meeting. This meeting is about you, Tahoe Donner owners, but it's also about everyone that we enjoy Tahoe Donner with, our family, our friends, and others in our life circles. In preparing for today, I reached out to 3 Tahoe Donner members: an Emmy Award winner with a rock and roll history, a pioneer in her profession for forensic accounting, and a published author of 4 books, that, by the way, has 5-star ratings on Amazon. I know them as neighbors, and in 10 minutes, you will too. But first, I would like to recognize the neighbors who volunteer and serve on our board and committees and our staff. We work together to serve the membership and to make a better community. We're proud of what we have accomplished together. Wildlife prevention with massive fuel breaks and defensible space projects underway. Friday afternoon after the board meeting, I had a chance to go up to forestry and spend the afternoon, and we took a tour. It is just amazing, the work that is going on, the amount of timber that has been felled, the areas that have been cleared. What surprised me most is when we see the photos, you don't realize how close they are to the homes of the areas we're clearing until you make the U-turn around, for example, on Ski Slope. And there's the houses right there. We've had near record, if not record-breaking, member outreach and input. We have safety and security measures going on, including emergency power projects, security staff, and ongoing discussions with the town of Truckee on emergency initiatives. We've addressed staffing, recovery, post-COVID, and comprehensive short-term work plans, as well as long-term planning, and amenity improvements covering year-round enjoyment. David McCallion, who just spoke, will be addressing these in more detail later during our general manager's address. And we're also in very strong financial position, and Steve Mahoney, the treasurer, our treasurer, will address those immediately following this address. So the first picture here, this is the Venezia family. We're on to the member stories. Steve and Diane first bought in 2009. Back then it was Steve, Diane, and 3 adult children, 2 married, 1 single. Diane and Steve enjoyed Tahoe Donner as second homeowners. A decade later, they surveyed their growing family, which was now 3 married children, including 4 grandchildren. And they asked them where they should make their full-time home. They all insisted Tahoe Donner. Steve and Diane built their full-time home on Skiview Loop. They very purposely designed it to accommodate 3 generations, and now with 9 grandchildren. In the winter, Steve and Diane and family enjoy skiing here on our ski hill, where most of the grandkids learn to ski. In the summer, it's off to the marina, or hiking, or biking, or golf, or special events like the concert on a green that we're all going to enjoy next weekend. To quote Steve, Tahoe Donner has become the center of our family world. So next is the Ravano family. This is Kathy Ravano's mom, Mary. And here's the story behind this picture. 3 generations gathered at the family home on Ramshorn in December 1989. Kathy, her parents, and her 2 young children for the first winter visit up from the Bay Area. Snow fell for several days. Welcome to the mountains, Kathy. 39 years later, Kathy's son Steve and daughter Suzanne both still remember that blustery, wintry day. And that's because they were snuggled comfortably in their PJs, and Grandpa Fred taught the grandkids how to play poker. The perfume of fresh, warm cinnamon rolls filled the air, and cinnamon roll pieces filled the table, because those cinnamon roll pieces were the makeshift poker chips. Giggling summoned Kathy downstairs. There was a problem. Her son claimed to be winning, and had nothing to show for it. I heard a giggle. Someone's guessing what happened. Yes, he was nibbling away at his winnings, eating his cinnamon roll poker chips every time he won a hand. Later that day, after a day of PJs and poker, 2.5 feet of Sierra snow on the deck beckoned, and it was time to grab a shovel. Grandma Mary slipped out onto the deck in her bathrobe and slippers, and she grabbed a snow shovel and grinned for this picture. For the record, Kathy says that her mom never shoveled a single snowflake in all her years here. Kathy herself is now Grammy, with grandkids ranging from newborn to teenagers. The newest generation has learned to ski here, enjoys equestrian, as well as, well, I'll just sum it up. Between them all, they enjoy it all. Kathy regales in 4 generations of enjoyment at Tahoe Donner. Our final story is Jackie Howe, another neighbor on Ski View Loop. This is a story of how a 1983 newspaper article changed Jackie's life forever. Jackie's children's father, Dave, got the idea to purchase a home on the shores of Lake Tahoe, which was a challenge for a young couple with 2 babies and no money. The next morning, Jackie opened the Mercury News to an article about Tahoe Donner and the latest subdivision about to open up for sale. Dave flew up the very next day and picked a lot with a wonderful view and an afternoon sun. Jackie was one of the first homes on Ski View with no neighbors for a mile in either direction. As Jackie tells her story, as others discovered Ski View Loop, what was once a lone home became a neighborhood. Time also brought more trails for hiking, a new rec center that is now well loved, our private beach that has become its own destination, as well as a cross-country ski area, and pizza on the hill and a lodge restaurant, with what she describes as delicious menus. Jackie's kids learned how to ride horses, to go fishing with their friends, to ski on Tahoe Donner slopes, to swim, taking lessons in the Tahoe Donner pools. They floated down the Truckee River, canoed and went camping. And most importantly, they learned to have great respect for nature and the simple pleasures it can provide. Jackie moved here in full-time in 2020. I think we've got some more pictures of Jackie. Jackie moved here full-time in 2020, and she describes that as the best decision that I've made to date. She has been overwhelmed with how kind the people are that she meets. Wherever she goes, she says she's greeted with either a smile or a wave or both. Quoting Jackie, "We started as a diamond in the rough, only to become the gem we are today." The agenda title says this is the State of Tahoe Donner Address. Well, to me, these stories exemplify the state of Tahoe Donner. We're a strong recreational community with a varied membership who share a passion for Sierra Mountain living that we share with our family and friends. That these stories, while rich in history, were told to me in the present tense with an eye toward the future, with a focus on people, makes a strong statement on the state of Tahoe Donner. Now, if you would please stand up one more time. And I want you to find someone else that you didn't talk to the first time. And whether you're just saying hello to an old friend or introducing yourself to a new friend, make another introduction and say hello. If you would, please stay standing, but give me your attention.
Now I'm trying to get back. Before the cool done run out, I'll be giving it my best. This and nothing's gonna stop me but divine intervention. I reckon it's again my turn to win some or lose.
Oh, I love it. But we do need to stay on time. Please remain standing. The music that has been playing today during your walk-in and during this meeting, the playlist was compiled by our neighbor Steve Venezia, and we're going to make the playlist available on Apple Music and Spotify under the name Tahoe. Enjoy Tahoe Donner, so please look for that. But I'd like to conclude with asking you to thank Steve for the playlist, and the Venezia families, and the Urbanos, and the Hugh families for sharing their stories. And let's applaud all of our neighbors. A standing ovation, please, for Tahoe Donner members. Thank you. And with that, I would like to introduce our neighbor and our treasurer, Steve Mahoney.
That's a tough act to follow, Don. I'll do my best. Thank you, Don. Good morning, everyone. And I'd like to add my warm welcome to all of our members and invited guests who are joining us here today for our 2022 annual meeting. I'm pleased to present to you the 2022 Treasurer's Report. Let's see. Here we go. So today I'll review Tahoe Donner Association's recent operating performance, current financial condition, present at a high level a look at our investment portfolio, and finally discuss challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. And later on in the session, there will be an opportunity to ask questions, and I shall do my level best to answer them as best I can. So this is a snapshot of your association, our association, presented for the benefit of old members and new. We are in a strong financial position. Members' equity increased 7.3% last year, and it represents the collective net worth of our association. Homeowners would know that the value of their property has increased substantially too over the last several years. And I personally believe, and I think many of you would agree, that there is a strong correlation between the quality and the breadth of our amenities, the strength of our association's financial position, and member home values. Before reviewing our operating performance, I'd like to offer a brief refresher about how our fund accounting system works. The operating fund tracks annual operating expenses and revenues such as payroll, utilities, food and beverage, golf course, green fee, ski lift tickets, etc. We also have 3 capital funds that represent our savings for refurbishment, repair, and future replacement of our existing assets and the development of new amenities. Every year, a portion of our annual assessment is allocated to each of those 4 funds. So turning to last year, the association faced many operational and financial pressures in 2021 during the second year of the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite these pressures, your association weathered the storm reasonably well. We generated an operating fund surplus from skillful expense control by our management team. And here, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our staff for their extraordinary dedication, and our general manager, David McCallion, for his steadfast leadership during the pandemic. Importantly, I'd like to thank, yes, great idea. Importantly, I would also like to thank the homeowners for their patience and support through the past several years of just unbelievable headwinds. Significantly, the portion of our annual assessment that supports the operating fund, or the spending that we can control right now, has increased at a 2.8% compound annual growth rate since 2011. This compares favorably to the average inflation rate during the same time frame. Through the first 5 months of fiscal 2022, we are slightly ahead of budget in the operating fund. Our positive budget variance will likely erode through the summer, as it typically does. Like many businesses in the region, we are experiencing upward pressure on wages, food and beverage costs, material costs throughout our operation. Our staff continues to focus keenly on expense control and operational efficiencies to stay within the budget. Now a little bit about our financial condition. We have approximately $44 million of funds available to support our operations and the repair, refurbishment, and eventual replacement of our physical plant. This year, we expect combined replacement reserve and development fund investments to be approximately $7.3 million. Of course, that depends on permitting from the town of Truckee, and of course, Mother Nature weighs in from time to time. So weather is a big factor in terms of being able to hit our building program. One measure of our strong financial position is our replacement reserve funding ratio, which currently, or at year end 2021, stood at 38%. It is at the highest level in the association's history. We are well prepared to maintain our existing physical plant. Keeping our assets in excellent repair reduces our long-run operating costs, increases member enjoyment, and clearly contributes to stronger home values. This is a snapshot of our investment portfolio. We do not take unnecessary risk in our portfolio to capture better returns. We do not invest in equities, commodities, cryptocurrencies, or any other exotic instruments. A significant portion of our portfolio is invested in highly rated U.S. Treasury securities, which are rated AAA by Moody's and AA+ by Standard & Poor's. We also have smaller corporate and municipal bond portfolios. The issuers in each of those funds, or those portfolios, each have at least one A3 or A- rating from a major rating agency. And now that interest rates have started moving higher, we are transitioning out of shorter dated money market funds into longer dated, better yielding investments. So turning to the future. As identified in the current 5-year draft capital funds projection, average annual increases in the development fund portion of the annual assessment for 2023 and 2024 of roughly $156 per homeowner, or 43 cents per day, will allow us to accumulate the necessary funding for the new lodge, as well as complete other important capital projects. We will continue to refine this funding program as we obtain better cost information through the design development process. Tahoe Donner has 10 or so buildings with an estimated replacement value of $28 million that will need to be replaced over the next 10 to 20 years, including the building right behind us. Developing a sound plan to address this capital need might be the association's most important financial task over the next 12 to 18 months. Like a sound college savings plan, time can be our ally, and we should get going on it. And as a result, the board has asked the management team, the finance committee, and the long-range planning committee to collaborate on this important building replacement initiative. Thank you for your attention this morning. You can find current and historical financial information about Tahoe Donner on our website. I'll turn the podium back to our general manager, David McKillian.
Thank you, Steve. appreciate the information, as does the rest of the association. So I'm really, it's my pleasure. We're going to have two keynote speakers today, because why wouldn't we? We're going to actually have the new fire chief, Chief McKechnie, come up here and talk about Measure T and how it relates to the association. We're also going to have the deputy insurance commissioner here as well speak after the chief does. As the chief makes his way up, I just wanted to give a shout out to all those in public safety. You know, over the past several years, they have been taxed to the max, basically, on what you've seen, not just in this region, but throughout the state of California. So over the next, when you get a chance to say hi to them, just thank them for all the work that they're doing. Hopefully they get to rest this summer. That'll be great. But again, I think just seeing the hard work that all these men and women have been doing for the communities that they live in and support has been pretty remarkable. So when you get a chance, please thank them for all the work they're doing. Chief McKechnie, come on up.
Alrighty, thanks for having me. All right. Presentation's queuing up. All right, so yeah, my name is Kevin McKechnie. I'm the new fire chief for the Truckee Fire Protection District. Yeah, so I wanted to start off by acknowledging the Tahoe Donner and the Tahoe Donner Association for being a leader in fire prevention and forestry management. You know, it's my understanding that Tahoe Donner has required defensible space inspections during property sale transactions for a long time. The fire district adopted a similar ordinance back in 2019, and now it's a state requirement. Tahoe Donner banned campfires. Then the fire district adopted a similar ordinance, and now the state is considering having a process to ban campfires in state parks consistent with local ordinance. And finally, Tahoe Donner has been a longtime leader in forest fuels management and defensible space. Last fall, the community was overwhelmingly supportive of Measure T and our new wildfire prevention division. So with that, I tip my cap to Tahoe Donner and the association's leadership with fire prevention. For my presentation today, yeah, you guys are out in front. Yeah, so for my presentation today, I'll give you a little background on myself. I'll discuss the work that the fire district does for the community. I'm going to discuss some of the systems that we serve. I'll talk a little bit about how you guys can help out, and I'll close with what is likely our most pressing concern, wildfire prevention. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. Let's see here. My family moved to Truckee in 1972. So as you can imagine, I've seen lots of change over the years. I remember in 1980 when we learned that the lumber mill was going to close down. Many people thought this would be the end of Truckee with the loss of this industry. The second crisis came in the late 90s with plans to build the Truckee Bypass, a connection between Interstate 80 and Highway 267 with a direct link to Lake Tahoe. Travelers would no longer need to go through downtown Truckee on their way to enjoy the jewel of the Sierras. Of course, Truckee has survived those threats and by all accounts is a thriving community cherished by so many with so much to offer. However, we are facing a new threat. Catastrophic wildfire that is encroaching on our community. More on that a little later. So I started with the fire district in 2001 as a volunteer looking to give back to the community while enjoying the intrinsic rewards of teamwork and camaraderie. My first big fire was the Martis fire that started on Father's Day 2001. The Martis fire burned 15,000 acres, no structures, no lives lost, so a pretty small fire by today's standards, but still the biggest fire in our area in the last 20 years. In 2005, I was offered a full-time job and the opportunity to go to paramedic school. Over the next 14 years, I moved up through the ranks through fire captain and battalion chief, And in 2019, I took the leap from operations side over to fire prevention and became the fire marshal. I found the work of fire prevention to be fascinating. I was able to go to the National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland to study fire investigations. And I've been involved with the implementation of the fire code for our community for the last few years. This career path put me in the position to be the fire chief. I hold this position in great regard, and it's a privilege and an honor to be your fire chief. All right, so enough about me. Let's talk about the fire district. What do we do for you? So we provide all-risk emergency response. We have a full-service fire prevention bureau. We provide community education and outreach, and we have our new wildfire prevention division funded by Measure T. So our operations division maintains vigilant preparedness and delivers all-risk rapid response for fire, EMS, and technical rescue. The firefighters are trained and equipped for structure fires, vehicle fires, and vegetation fires. We are the advanced life support transport provider, and our Type 1 fire engines are ALS equipped. We have technical rescue capabilities including low angle, high angle, swift water, ice, aircraft, vehicle extrication, and avalanche, to name a few. And we have a really cool airboat. We do this over the 125 square miles of our fire district with an on-duty staffing of 1 battalion chief, 4 captains, and 8 firefighters, deployed over 4 24/7 fire stations. The goal of operations is to stop the loss as it is occurring, to keep small fires small, and so that the recovery and restoration progress can begin. Now, our prevention division's goal is to stop the loss before it ever happens. This process starts with a thorough post-incident investigation. The investigation informs code development, public outreach, and education programs. Our fire marshal staff are available to perform plan reviews, deliver code interpretation, perform inspections, and enforce code compliance as needed. Additionally, we like to think we are proactive and connected with our messaging. We use social media, print ads, radio ads, variable message signs, and banners to communicate our public safety message. And this is a good opportunity for a Code Red plug. We have switched to a new messaging subscription service sponsored by Nevada County called Code Red. We are no longer using Nixle, so please get signed up for Code Red. Code Red will be used for advisory information as well as emergency evacuation, warnings, and orders. To get signed up for Code Red, go to truckyfire.org. It's at the bottom left of our homepage. So I want to talk a little bit about the systems that we serve. All fire departments are unique in how they respond to the needs of their community, and we're no different. In many cases, we are called to serve the systems and services that serve the community. One of the big ones for us is Interstate 80. As you may imagine, we run a lot of calls on the freeway. Donner Pass grades are steep and the curves are tight, and it claims many vehicles. But it also provides access to our community, and it's a principal backbone in our nation's economy. We serve the power and gas distribution systems that heat and light our homes. Both utilities advise that you should leave the area and call 911 if you smell gas or come upon a down power line. We are also unique in our community to have an airport, a railroad, and a hospital that both serve our community but also demand service of the fire district. The other item that is wonderfully unique in our community is the wide range of fun things to do here, from the special events to the trails to the waterways. It's not hard to find an adventure or some cultural enlightenment around town. I want to be clear here that we love serving this community. However, our resources are not infinite, and we strive to be ready and available when the need arises. So what can you do to help with that? You know, I consider fire prevention and community risk reduction a partnership. So let's quickly go over some items that you can do to help keep our community more resilient. Make sure your fire alarms and CO detectors are properly functioning. These devices have a lifespan. Most around 10 years, but sometimes less, and they need fresh batteries. When you hear them chirping, read the fine print inside the battery covering. Oftentimes they will be sending a code in chirps indicating the device is defective or at the end of its life and needs to be replaced. However, if you don't know, evacuate the area, call 911, and we'll come figure it out with you. Also, have a fire extinguisher and know how to use it. This can be the difference between a big fire and a small fire. Make sure your address is clearly visible so that responders can easily find you. Eliminate combustible storage around your hot water heater and furnace. This is a common thread for residential structure fires. Stay connected and be ready and set to go if wildfire threatens the community. This is your code red sign up, your defensible space and home hardening on your property. Having a go bag of essential items and leaving the area without delay when an evacuation is ordered. Our success depends on this partnership for community resiliency. Okay, so let's, earlier I said I'd talk about catastrophic wildfire, this threat that's encroaching on our community. With last year's Dixie Fire to our north and Caldor Fire to our south, it's not hard to feel as if we're in the crosshairs for the next bad fire season. So what should we do? Measure T was a step in the right direction, and we are very appreciative of Tahoe Donor support for that parcel tax, and we recognize the substantial contribution that comes from this association. However, I believe it's important to understand that Measure T is by no means a complete solution to this problem, and we must recognize that more needs to be done. With that, Tahoe Donor Forestry needs to continue the good work that they are doing, and together we need to mobilize other available resources. This could be from Nevada County, who over the last several years has been considering a revenue measure for emergency preparedness and wildfire prevention. It would be great if we could influence the state of California, who is sitting on a large surplus and has committed to wildfire prevention, to spend some of that money in our area. Same with the federal government that passed the infrastructure bill with funding for wildfire prevention. It would be awesome to see some of those resources here in our area. So it's important that we understand the broad and far-reaching impacts of wildfire. Fires from far away impact our air quality and keep us from our cherished outdoor activities. These fires contribute to greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. They affect water quality and habitats for plants and animals. They affect our natural resources are consumed and wasted without realizing a beneficial use. And these fires have the potential to destroy our carefully cultivated lifestyle that we enjoy so much and seek to pass down for generations to come, as was mentioned in the President's message just a few minutes ago. We're doing a lot, and I want to recognize that, but we need to be doing more in order to confidently protect our community. So I want to leave you with a story. It's the story of August 30th, 2021, right here in Truckee. The weather, a red flag day. High winds, high temperatures, low humidity. The first dispatch was for a residential structure fire, 5:10 p.m. The second for a debris fire 20 minutes later. The total loss that day was around $2 million, but it could have been much higher, maybe as much as $200 million or more. Were it not for the rapid response and skilled work of our firefighters and our allied agencies, CAL FIRE, U.S. Forest Service, North Star, Olympic Valley, and North Tahoe. Was this loss preventable? When I interviewed the handyman that was staining the deck rail, he told me quite honestly that he put the oily rags in the cardboard box and put them underneath the wicker chair in order to keep them out of the sun and wind. The wood finish product was clearly labeled with proper disposal instructions for oily rags. Put the rags in a metal container with water and a lid. I don't tell this story to scare you, but I want you to know that fires will happen and that everything we do to prevent them and keep them small is important. From planning, prevention, mitigation, response, and recovery, everything matters. So with that, I thought I'd circle back to where I started, recognizing Tahoe Donner as a leader in fire prevention. 3 times Tahoe Donner has set the course and others have followed. First, Firewise Community, Defensible Space, Campfire Ban. Let's continue this with forestry management and leverage Measure T to obtain additional resources from the state and feds. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. You're going to stick around for some Q&A for a little bit? Great. As a reminder, we have question cards going around, so if you have questions towards the end, we'll be fill the cards out, give them back to Lindsay and staff, and we'll be able to address them up here. Without further ado, I am really pleased to welcome the Deputy Commissioner of the Insurance Commission, Ms. Juarez. She was here last year. Her boss spoke. Now we get her. My experience is staff usually has a little bit more information than their bosses. How it works. So we're really pleased to have her, and she'll talk a lot about insurance. I know I get lots of calls about homeowners insurance, and she'll be able to speak to that. So welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is a little bit high for me, but it is so good to be here with you again. This is such a beautiful place, and so anytime I get a chance to come up, thank you for inviting me. Thank you. My name is Julia Juarez. I am Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Insurance for Community Relations and Outreach. And so I get to come to places like this and actually, and tell you about all the work that the 1,400 employees in the California Department of Insurance are doing for you every day. So without further ado, let me get started. I want to make sure that I start with telling you a little bit about what the department does, what the commissioner can and cannot do. So as you know, Commissioner Ricardo Lara is our fearless leader at the department. And of course, he is responsible for protecting consumers, maintaining insurer solvency, so making sure that insurance companies are able to pay out the claims when disaster happens. And of course, setting the standards for agents and licensing, and making sure, performing market conduct to ensure, again, that companies are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and resolving consumer complaints. So when you do have an issue, we have people in the department who are there, and we have the best people. Sorry to say it myself, however, we really do have people who are, experts in the field and who can, talk to you and walk through your particular claims, your particular, insurance, and go through every single detail with you to make sure that the insurance companies are doing what they're supposed to be doing and that you get what you have been paying for, sometimes for generations. So we want to make absolutely sure that, that you are aware that we do have people there and that they are real people, it's not a machine, and that you are able to talk to somebody directly, and they can guide you and then work with an insurance company to make sure that your claims are paid and your issues are taken care of. We also have a 300-strong police department, let's say, that basically just works on your behalf throughout the state, making sure that if there are any type of people, anyone who might be taking advantage of consumers, that they are there to make sure that they prosecute, they take care of that. And so we have a very, very good department doing that. Now, the one thing that the commissioner cannot do is require or compel insurance companies to write insurance to anyone or any place. So that is the one thing that I always like to make absolutely sure that that people are aware of, that is the one thing that the commissioner cannot do. However, we do we do get to do a lot of things in the state. So when Commissioner Lara came into office about 3.5 years ago, the very first thing that he did was make sure that we got out of the office and actually out into local communities. And so we have been to every single county in the state and have met with folks like you to try to find out what the issues are that they are having with their homeowners insurance, which is the biggest issue that we have seen. And then, and of course, during the pandemic, the businesses were having issues with their insurance. So we made sure that we were able to connect with local businesses as well to help navigate the issues at that time. But one of the very first things that we did was go in and meet with you all to learn about what your issues were. And we have met with over 25,000 people now, and held over 60 virtual events, specifically on wildfire with the commissioner. And so he personally went and met with all of these groups, you guys included, just to make absolutely sure that we understood the issue and we worked on it together. Now, the interesting thing, as you can see through our map there, is that the issue of homeowners insurance and non-renewals is not a Northern California issue. It is not a rural issue. It is a statewide issue. Throughout the entire state, we are having these issues because wildfire now is no longer just in one space, but rather it is something that we have to learn how to live with. We have to learn how to figure out how to deal with, and so that has been our biggest issues. So the progress report, not just since you met with the commissioner, but prior, throughout the entire time that we have been working on this, there were very real quick things that we needed to take care of. And so, learning from our first responders, right, is that you take care of what's bleeding right now. And so what was happening when we first came to meet with you all was very much so some of the people who had been had issues with their homeowners insurance because they were part of a fire. First and foremost, they were getting non-renewed immediately. Oh, there's a fire. The minute they saw that, then insurance companies were just saying, okay, we're out, right there. And so before the commissioner came into office, he was in the Senate, and he actually got a law signed into law, a measure signed into law that insurance companies were not allowed to do that anymore for at least 1 year. Allow people to look at their insurance, look for different options before insurance companies were able to do that. So very much so, showing the insurance companies, the sky is not falling. Let's figure this out. Take some time and let's work with the homeowners to try to make sure that those people are dealing with the most immediate need, which might be living expenses that they might have when they were out of their homes, smoke damage, whatever it is that they needed to deal with, that was the very first thing that they dealt with, instead of trying to find insurance immediately or being without insurance at that time. So those were the things that we worked for. So now, anyone who is affected by fires, by wildfire, not just the ones that actually got their homes burned, but all communities surrounding a fire that the governor has declared in a state of emergency, those entire communities now are safe from non-renewals for at least 1 year. So that way people are able to do that. So that's a big to do. So we were and that has shown not just the insurance companies, but all, everyone. It's like, okay, we need to, regroup, figure out how to navigate this, and then move forward. So that was the very first thing, and that happened as we first, got started with this. Coverage for evacuation expenses. We also learned that people were being evacuated or told to evacuate, but then, their house didn't burn, so then they were told, okay, well then just go back to your homes. Well, the thing is, maybe their house didn't burn, but there was no water, there was no electricity, there were, just different things like that. They couldn't really move back in. So that, we made sure that people were given the additional living expenses that they needed while they were taking care of that when they got an evacuation notice or, they evacuated, not just if they lost their home. So that was also something that actually helped homeowners breathe a little easier. So that was the second thing. Then the other is we made sure that when people are rebuilding their homes or they're in the process of doing that, that they got the additional coverage for building code upgrades. Because what has happened is, of course, as you can imagine, you've had your home for a very long time, your home insurance and all that, but then if you have to rebuild, now you have to rebuild with all new different, building code upgrades that you didn't have before that you need to, cover. And so then this actually makes absolutely sure that the homeowner is aware and that the insurance companies are working with them to make sure that those expenses are also covered in their coverage, in their premiums. And so that, and then of course the 1-year moratorium, and it also gave homeowners an additional, some additional time when they received a non-renewal for them to find insurance. So it went from 45 days to 75 days, which is a lot more. It's a little more time. It's not great, but it's a little more time for them to be able to put their, take some time and do their research according to what they need. So what we have seen is that because of all of this, and insurance companies then, of course, looking at their overall book of business and, and getting out of areas where they think that it's going to be, bad for them, the FAIR Plan has just completely, skyrocketed for folks. Now, the FAIR Plan was established in the 60s after the Watts riots of the 60s. So it was very much so, set up to be, the insurance of last resort for like urban niche communities. At this point, that FAIR Plan is no longer that. The FAIR Plan is actually that the insurance of last resort for hundreds of people throughout the state. And even though it is only 3% of the entire market in the state, in some communities, the FAIR Plan has a much larger footprint in that sense. So the commissioner also got the FAIR Plan to increase its coverage from 1.5 million, which maybe in the 80s and 90s that would have covered most homes. At this point, it doesn't. So we raised it to about 3 million, and then also the commercial properties. We've been able to increase that. Now, the other thing that the commissioner did was actually ask the FAIR Plan to not just increase their coverage limits, but then also, because when you get the FAIR Plan only covers fire, then you need to get other insurance to cover the rest, right? And so because of that, you get, very high premium that you have to pay, but then you have to get other insurance, and so that is another high premium, and then other administrative costs that go along with all of that. So what the commissioner requested was for the FAIR Plan to provide, a comprehensive insurance policy for consumers who need it and who would like to purchase it. So as you may recall, the FAIR Plan then sued the commissioner because they did not want to do that. And so we are, now we did, within that time, since last year to this year, the judge did, say that the commissioner does have the ability to request that from the FAIR Plan and that they should do that. However, the FAIR Plan is appealing, and so we are still in the same, we are still in litigation. However, we are moving in that direction. So we're hoping that, as we keep working on this, that we are moving on this. Now, because the FAIR Plan is such a large part of our day-to-day now for homeowners. The commissioner wants to do a little bit more digging, and very much so trying to understand what are the things, we're hearing from a lot of folks who are having little issues with the FAIR Plan. And so what he's doing is he's actually hosting a hearing on July 13th, within a couple of weeks, where he really wants to find out from consumers and from brokers and for people who work with the FAIR Plan to have a conversation of, let's find out what are the biggest issues and what can we do to fix them. Because what we know is, so as the FAIR Plan was established by the legislature, but it is run by the insurance industry, because it's basically a pot of money that all insurance companies that do business in the state put into, and so they are the ones that are in the board, and they decide, what happens with the FAIR Plan. So what we're doing is, the commissioner is bringing the FAIR Plan, the president of the FAIR Plan, their staff, and then holding this hearing. And it's not supposed to be a, going down and just pointing fingers at the FAIR Plan, but rather let's figure out what are the biggest issues that people are having, and let's work together to find solutions there. So if if the FAIR Plan doesn't want the commissioner to come in and just mandate for them to do things, okay, that's fine. Let's figure out how to do this together so that we can move the needle forward. So that is happening July 13th, and we would love to have you. If you are, if you have had some issues with the FAIR Plan, love to hear from you. I'm going to have my cards here. I'm going to stay here for a while, but I'm going to have my cards here too. And if you would like to talk to me about it, I want to make sure that your comments and your experiences with the FAIR Plan are being taken into consideration. So I would love to hear from you on that. So that is the next thing. So the other thing that the commissioner did within this time period is decided to bring all of the different agencies in the state, because everyone was working on wildfire, but everyone was doing it on their own, in their own particular way for their own particular issues. So CAL FIRE was working on, on defensible space and all that kind of stuff. Cal OES was working on another issue, and like all the different agencies in the state were working on this, but were working on it in their own silos. So when homeowners were saying, okay, I want to make sure that my home is safe, I will do this, then they would see, they have, okay, the county is telling me to do this. The city is telling me to do that. The state is telling me to do the other thing. You never knew what was it that you were supposed to really do, and you kept going, people kept going from one place to the next. So what the commissioner did is he said, okay, everybody, let's get together and let's come up with very specific things that we can do, that consumers, that homeowners can do, that businesses can do, so that they can be safer from wildfires. And then from there, we can have the insurance companies come back and say, okay, these are the things that, if you did all of these things, we will be able to give you up to 20% of decrease in your premiums, because your home is safe. That is completely different than they have ever done. So what we did was, working with all of them, was come up with the Safer from Wildfires 1, 2, 3. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for folks, but very much so starting out with, of course, the home, the actual, home, and putting very specific things in place. We are looking at, the roof, like the eaves, like all the different, very specific things that you can do to make sure that your home is safe. The next thing is your surroundings, your immediate surroundings, right? So if you have a shed, how far is the shed? Is the shed made out of wood? Are there oily rags around the shed? Those kinds of things. Making absolutely sure that that is taken care of. And then the last thing, which is the most important part, which Tahoe Donner is absolutely doing great on this, is very much so working together as a community to make sure that the entire area is safe. Because what we have also heard is that people will say, I have done everything in my home and taken care of my home, but my neighbor across the street, it's their second home, third home, whatever, they're not here. and so then that, their place is, has all these things wrong with it. I can't do anything about it because it's not my place. My community is not going to be able to move forward. I'm not going to be able to get anything out of this if they're not doing their part. If the state is not doing their part, some of this, we know that there are some homes that are right next to, state owned property or federal property, like that kind of stuff. How do we make sure that the entire community is taken care of? So what the group came up with was very specific things that you can do, and one of those very specific things is having a Firewise community. If you are part of a Firewise community and you all work together to make sure that maybe your neighbor or down the street, somebody who is elderly, who might not have the ability to take care of their particular things, everyone works together and makes sure that their home is defensible as well, then the entire community wins, and then the entire community is being seen as better. Now, this is all well and good, but if it doesn't really translate to better insurance rates and better, it doesn't really make a difference, and that's it. I mean, you're safer from wildfires, but it's not working for your bottom line. So what they have done, what this does, is then set up the commissioner to make some rules for the insurance companies that they will have to follow. And so from that is insurance companies will now have to factor consumers' wildfire actions, safety actions in their pricing. They also will have to provide each consumer their wildfire risk score. Now, many of us have been given our wildfire risk score, me included. I live in Los Angeles, and my house is high severity wildfire area, and but nobody tells you why did I get this score in particular. So now, every time we ask, even the Department of Insurance wasn't able to get that. So when we asked for that, they would say, that's proprietary information. And so we were not able to look into that. So now, because of these rules that the commissioner has done, they have to provide you your wildfire risk score, and they have to tell you why that is. And then the Department of Insurance will be able to oversee that. And if you don't agree with that, you're going to be able to appeal it and be able to come back to them and say, no, this makes no sense because I have done this, and this. And that makes my home safer. Therefore, my insurance needs to be lower, or my wild risk score needs to be lower, which has never happened. And this right here is absolutely huge for homeowners because now we're actually going to be able to see their books. Now we're actually going to be able to see why is it that we are being treated like this. As you may recall, before, insurance companies used to come to your home, look at your home, and kind of figure out what were the issues that they considered to be, some issue for you to, maybe not get a non-renewal. Now, they just basically say, oh, this whole entire zip code over here, it's too much. We don't want to have any business there. Well, they're not, you can't really tell us why. So now, through this, you are absolutely going to know. So the commissioner is putting this together. We had a hearing about this on April 13th. So the regulations are now being reviewed. We heard from insurance companies. We heard from experts in the field. We heard from consumers. And now they are being, the department is basically making the last updates to this, and we expect that by the end of the summer, then we will have all of these regulations be in place, and then all insurance companies will have to adhere by those. And so then insurance companies will have to turn in their new system of establishing the rates and all of that. And then after that, then every single insurance company will have to go through all of this and make sure that every consumer has the ability to look at it, to look at all of this. what's really cool about all this is it's working. We are really excited because we have seen that throughout this entire time, non-renewals by insurance companies are falling. 2020 is only, 2 years ago, we're still, as you know, research is a year off, but we have seen that non-renewals are falling, and we have been told by at least 47% of the market, by the insurance companies that are actually, writing homeowners insurance, that they are no longer, they are working to make sure that they are decreasing the number of non-renewals, and that they are using, and then we also have that 2 out of 5 consumers are able to get discounts for their wildfire mitigation already. So it's coming along, it's working. The expectation is then by the time this becomes, full-blown for every insurance company, that we expect that this is going to then be throughout the entire, that 100% of companies will be able to do this. So we are seeing that is, the work that we're doing is working. Now, I also wanted to make sure that I put our phone number there, because if you have questions that are not addressed, today with me, you can certainly give us a call, and you can talk to someone and actually go through your particular policy, and they can work through it with you and look at what the issues may be that you may be having. And sometimes you never know. Sometimes you think this is what it is and it's not going to change. But when they actually look through it and they walk through it with you, and then contact the insurance companies, and the insurance company walks through it, the 3 of you look at something together, you'll be surprised of how many people are helped through that. So, government is slow. That is government is slow. However, I am really excited that the work that Commissioner Laura has been doing and making us go out there and talk to people individually, making us go out there to all of these communities and getting all this stuff together, it is working, and we are moving in the right direction. So the department and the government has done their part in the sense of figuring out how we can do this. Now we're coming to you your part with your communities as well, and be a part of your Firewise communities and figure out how to do this. You guys already have here in Tahoe, Donner, you already have Firewise. But if you are also, if you have homes in other communities and you need help with figuring out how to do that too, we are absolutely a resource, and we would love to work with you. In regards to funding, there is quite a bit of funding in the state for wildfires, wildfire prevention, wildfire mitigation, and the department is absolutely available to write letters of support for every application that you may have to any of the departments. We are ready to help you with that. I will make sure that I myself work with you to make sure that we get those letters out, and the work that you're doing is being acknowledged, and it's being it's somehow receiving the funding and the support that you need for that. So with that, I thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, that was great. She will be sticking around for questions here afterwards. So just a time check, it's 11:18. If you haven't voted, I would encourage you to do so in the next 12 minutes, because that will shut off at 11:30. We will have Brent, the Inspector of Elections, give the results at noon up here. So that's the time frame we're in right now. What I want to do is be able to provide a brief overview of kind of the story, not the story, but some of the accomplishments that we've been able to do over this past year from the general manager's perspective. We'll then have some time for Q&A afterwards. I would encourage you to get the question cards. I think Lindsay has them in the back, or Patty has them in the back, and we'll be able to read those off and do the best we can to answer those questions. But some of the things I wanted to touch base on briefly is some of the things we've been able to accomplish over the past year. I'm not sure how many golfers there are in the house, but the golf course right now, based on the new greens last year, the work that was done to the golf course, bringing in a new golf superintendent, the work that our golf pro's doing. It's playing as good as it's played ever, I think. But I've only been here 2 years, so what do I know? But I would encourage you, if you are a golfer, get out there and continue to play. If you're on the fence about wanting to golf, go out there, get a lesson, talk to our staff. They're really great, and I just encourage you to check out the course. Other things we've been able to do, both the Director Mahoney and our board president talked about long-range planning. So we have a long-range planning committee, which was created this past year. Their focus right now is looking at what we're going to look like in the next 10, 15, 20 years. I would encourage you to participate, at least look at those meetings. We have some committee members here. Talk to them about how you can help participate in that. But I know that is one of the things we're looking at from a staff's perspective. What are we going to look like in the next 10, 15, 20 years? We have some buildings that are going to need to be replaced or remodeled significantly. One of them, if you look behind you, is one of those. But I think as we look at master planning and long-term planning, bringing everybody together as we go through that process is going to be really important. Those in the audience who are familiar with the Giving Fund, raise your hand. I would really encourage you. I wish everybody's hand was raised, but I would really encourage you to get a better understanding of the good work that the Giving Fund is doing. Help participate with scholarships, whatever they need to do to continue to move that message. The work that they're doing is great, and I would really, it impacts folks not just in Tahoe Donner, but throughout the community. So I really encourage you to get involved with the Giving Fund. We had a pretty significant launch. We had the member portal launch. I know it's had a little bit of hiccups with regards to how you can get in and look at board meetings and things like that, but for me, the biggest change is our membership being able to go online, pay your assessment, take a look at the status of your assessment, look at if you have permits outstanding through the member portal, whether it's through ASO or covenants. All that information is at your fingertips. So you can go online, look at all that information, be able to pay your assessments, respond to whatever questions you may have through the member portal. So if you have any questions about that, we can certainly address those as well today. There's been lots of discussion about the third access road. Just to put matters to rest, I guess there's some chatter out there in the electronic world, let's call it. Staff, being myself, our capital projects director, town manager, public works director, we've been communicating really since I got here almost 2 years ago. Right now, the status of the third access road is the town is doing a study. They hope to have the results of that study late fall, early winter. Once the results of that study come out, then I think that's when we're going to see a lot more effort as to how we want to proceed with that project. That project is going to be very expensive. I don't believe the town has the money to fund that project. We certainly don't. We'll be looking at our partners at the state. She said she's got the money, so we're gonna get that letter from her. Just the letter, right? We just need a little letter, and we'll get the $30 or $40 million. But I think, in all seriousness, there's going to be lots of discussion once the results of that study comes out. Almost half the homes are represented in Tahoe Donner in Truckee proper, and so it is an important project for the association. And I do believe that the town understands that as well. But just to put things to rest, we have been in communication in real time with the town about this project. And in fact, just a couple weeks ago, we met with the mayor and the town manager, president, and vice chair as well. So those continue to move forward. One of the things that I'm proud of is the staff being able to reemerge from COVID. We never really left, but a lot of the projects and programs were shrunken during the COVID period. And now as COVID is not behind us, but maybe more tamed, if that's an appropriate term, you're going to see getting back to normal. The challenge is, what does normal look like? Staffing continues to be a challenge. We've turned the corner, as Don said, but we still have some significant challenges in forestry, food and beverage. Part of that, we've been able to address some of that through incentives and through wages and things like that. That's going to put pressure on assessments and pressure on fees and things like that. So we are very, very conscious of that, looking at efficiencies that we can provide you, the members, so it doesn't impact your wallet as best we can. We still have to provide those services, and so we're trying to find that balancing act right now. I am really excited to announce, we announced several weeks ago, the new executive chef, Matt Hale. He's doing yeoman's work up there at the lodge. I think we introduced the new lodge menu last week, where's Steve? He's probably out cooking somewhere. Last week, and so I would really encourage you folks to get out there, look at the menu. You're going to see changes to the T9 Grill menu if they haven't already happened at this point. So we're looking to continue to have the menus evolve. The cost of proteins, and I've learned this term from Todd, or not from Todd, from Steve. I always thought proteins were just chicken and fish. I guess there's a term we have to call them proteins now. But those costs are up, and so when you see a steak or you see a piece of fish and it looks really expensive on the menu, we're not realizing those margins. That's the cost of the food. So a lot of the food cost is what's driving these pricing. So we're not subsidizing the actual direct food cost, and we're passing that on. So if you see an expensive steak, the margins aren't great on those. So just be forewarned. The food is excellent. I would really encourage you to go there and check it out. As far as member enjoyment goes, there's two exciting projects which we should break ground this fall. So we've talked about the marina deck. So you're going to see a marina deck expansion, or I should call it the enhancement there, where we'll be able to move it out farther, put some glass windbreaks on it, so it's a much better experience for those who don't necessarily want to go down to the beach. If it gets windy, they can get up there in a protected area, have call it a cold beverage, let's just say, and some food while their kids are running around down below, or just enjoy the ambiance up there at the marina. So we anticipate breaking ground there this fall. The other piece of this is the pavilion. I call it the pavilion. It's where the old pool. You all know that. I just said y'all. I'm from Southern California. I don't know how I picked up that term. I've been saying it a lot lately. I'm not sure why. But did you know that the pool used to be at the lodge? So when you're sitting on the pavers, I didn't know this, that's where the old pool used to be. So the point of this is we're looking to rehabilitate that entire area, fire pits, shade, and we hope to have the pictures of that here in the coming weeks. But we anticipate starting that this fall as well. So we're trying to get it done before 4th of July, and it didn't work out. So we want to make sure it's done right. Excited that Pizza on the Hill is open. If you haven't been to Pizza on the Hill, I would encourage you to do so. The food's great, and it's great having I use a cold beverage term a lot here, having a cold beverage and having a pizza, watching kids run around. Some focuses this year I talked a little bit about. The rec fee, we are working to address the rec fee issue this year. We'll make some presentations to the board probably in August for some options. One of the questions that have come up, if it's just me or just me and my wife or me and my spouse, why do I have to pay for a family of 4? So we're looking to individualize those rec fees, and we'll be providing that information to the board with some recommendations. I talked a little bit about employees. One of the things that is in the capital plan is employee housing. So you're going to see much more discussion about employee housing over the next probably 12 to 18 months. We'll do a comprehensive workforce study. We have some money set aside in the 5-year plan to hopefully address that. But I think I get asked a lot, what's the biggest issue from an employee standpoint? I think it's housing. If we can somehow control our own destiny when it comes to employee housing, whether that's seasonal or permanent, that's something that I think as an association we need to be spending some time on, especially over the next couple of years. As even though housing seems to be cooling off a little bit, it's certainly not any easier to rent here in Trenton Trucking. I also wanted to talk a little bit about our partnerships with the town, the PUD, and the Fire District, the Community Foundation. You see our partners here today. One of the things I've been really working on since I got here was continuing to build those relationships. We have a good relationship with the town. We have a good relationship with the Fire District and the PUD. We're not always going to see eye to eye on certain items, and that's fine. It's just a matter of how we're respectful and when we don't see eye to eye, and we're able to work through those issues. To date, the relationships with all those agencies have been fantastic. As you can see, we have a council member here today along with the town manager. We have city staff over here. Fire district is here. So we continue to build those relationships. And I'll finish with this. Fire safety. Fire safety continues to be a priority. You can see by the theme today of the keynote speakers. And so we're going to continue to push that work. Don mentioned he was up at Forestry Friday. There's a ton of timber that's been felled up there. We're moving that out to create better access for our fire partners to be able to slow fires down if they do happen. So we're going to continue to see that work. You still see lots of brush in the front in the streets. We're working to get that removed as quickly as we can. We're refocusing some of our staff, repurposing our staff from one area to another. to be able to get that wood off of the street. We're also looking at contracts. It's incredibly challenging because everybody's in the same boat we are. So we're trying to get additional contracts, bring people in to help with that work. They're just as busy as we are. So you're going to start seeing, rather than just chipping in your front yard, you may see us take that wood product, put it in a dump truck or a pickup, or not pickup, but a large vehicle, and to either take it up to forestry or chip it somewhere else. And with that, at least we can get it going faster that way. John Groom has a plan. He's been a great asset we added to the team here. Make sure I hit all my high notes. I guess I'll finish with this. The staff that you have that's here in the room and that's not here, who work diligently to support you, they really are to be commended. These past 2 years have really been challenging for everybody, not just the homeowners here, but your staff here, they have families as well. And they're dealing with managing their own families at home, coming here, trying to help you all get the best experience you can, I said you all again, to get the best experience you can here at Tahoe Donner. And so they really are committed. And they all have the same challenges you have. So they all have the same challenges with one of their kids gets sick with COVID, what do? They have the same challenges with being able to provide the best possible output at work when they have all the other challenges that you're facing with COVID at home as well. So I think it's really important that we recognize the staff here that have continued to try and provide the best possible services for y'all. Again, I'm going to stop doing that and go from there. So I think it's important. The board has been very supportive over since I've been here, and I want to recognize the board as well for supporting when we do have challenges with the employees, whether it's pay, whether it's hours, whatever it may be. The board has been very supportive of trying to keep our employees here, get the right employees on track, and so forth and so on. So with that, I just want to thank you. So with that, I think, Lindsay, we have some cards. And then just a time check, it's 11:31, so ballots are closed. Okay? Okay. Some of these I answered. Okay, so great. Is Kevin? Come on up here, Kevin. Chief? These are 2 questions. 2 questions.
All righty. Yeah, so who should have and who has the responsibility to clear snow around fire hydrants on the streets of Tahoe Donner? So let me start with just talking about our structure fire response in the wintertime. The hydrants get buried, and we understand that. When we get dispatched for a structure fire, we're typically rolling with 4 engines. Each engine has 500 gallons of water. So we show up with 2,000 gallons of water. We have another 2,000 gallons in a tender that's pretty readily accessible. And having been a firefighter for about 20 years, you can pick up a lot of fire with tank water. And so we put out a lot of fire just with the engines that show up. And then, as far as the hydrants, I do want to hit on this. Like, the fire hydrants are not ours. We do not own that facility. Okay, that is owned and maintained by the water district. Okay, so I know a lot of people think that the fire hydrants are ours, but they're not. It's the water district, and they maintain that system, and they use the hydrants for flushing and keeping the water system maintained. And those costs are sort of rolled into their rates. The other thing that I want to hit on quickly is that the building, so the actual development, is what the fire code tells you to have a fire hydrant. So if there's no buildings, there's really no need for a fire hydrant. So as developments get built out, maybe we don't need a fire hydrant, but then when the building gets there, we do. And of course, when the building's there and it snows, it becomes important to have that emergency water source. And that's part of the fire code. And the fire code says that the fire hydrants need to be maintained. They need to be clear and accessible at all times. So what do we do as the fire district? We try to prioritize clearing some hydrants, and so we'll do a loop around Northwoods so that we know maybe every other one we can get emergency water and we can shuttle, which is important. But to do all of the fire hydrants it's impossible. I think really for anybody. There's thousands of fire hydrants out there. So I just want to impress upon you that we do have a good plan. We have a good system in place. We encourage the adopt a hydrant where you can basically shovel your own hydrant. The one in front of your house, we encourage that. And, you know, I was talking to some folks earlier because they can't find it. They have a hard time finding the hydrant. It is so buried in this glacier, right, of, you know, up there on Ski Slope. And so what we could do, and what I'm thinking about bringing to the water district, is maybe a pavement marker. They do these in a lot of urban areas, and they do what's the blue. If you look and see a blue pavement marker in the road, you'll often see a hydrant right next to it. And so maybe we could start doing some of that, because the snow poles are just not tall enough. You know, I'm putting out, you know, 6-foot stainless steel snow poles on new hydrants, and they're buried. They're just gone. So I think we may look to putting a marker in the street, in the pavement. You know, always happy to partner with that, be the road department, Tahoe Donor Association, and the water district, and get stuff done. So hopefully that answers that question. Let's see here. Second question, I carry a fire extinguisher in my car. I believe this is a good idea in case encountering a vehicle fire or vegetation fire. So that's just a comment. And I would say, yeah, that's good. Those small fire extinguishers are good for, you know, of course, small fires. They don't absorb a lot of heat, but they're good for a small, say, fuel or oil fire, you know, maybe an engine compartment fire. But always call 911 and let us know about your fires. We like to be there and make sure it's out 100%. You know, these things rekindle, and do a little investigation, try to figure out the cause so we can do better next time. All right.
So a question, can you give me an update on the third access road? I think I just did, so hopefully that answered the questions for that. What is being done to harden Tahoe forest, harden Tahoe Donner to prevent wildfires? So again, we talked about that briefly, but there's a ton of work that our forestry department is doing right now. I would encourage you, well, maybe not go up to forestry because there's a ton of fallen lumber up there. But I know John Groom has some pictures. We can make sure those are on the website. We'll make sure that information is promoted on the Tuesday update. I'm looking at Lindsay. So you can see some of the work that's been done. We'll show you a map of that. It's pretty impressive when you see what we're doing. The other thing I will add to, I know the chief didn't speak to this too much, but Measure T, you know, Measure T isn't just for Tahoe Donner. They're able to utilize those resources to address fire protection around our border, right, outside of Tahoe Donner. So it prevents those fires from getting to us. So it's not just about TD. The fire district's ability to access those funds and use those to do forestry work around TD and throughout Truckee also helps reduce the fire risk for Tahoe Donner. What is management doing to improve food and beverage at TD? So I spoke to that. We just hired a new food and beverage director. I would encourage you to go to the lodge, eat some of the food there. I think it's really good. You can tell by my stomach. Also at Pizza on the Hill as well, and that's not helping my figure either. But my point is it's a work in progress. You know, we talk about efficiencies. One of the things Steve, our food and beverage director, did is we're now not single sourcing, but by 80% of all of our product expenses are coming from one source, U.S. Foods. So that brings efficiencies down. It still allows our chef to be able to look at specialty products and get the best possible deal he can. But we're reducing our exposure, our costs by being more efficient in how we're doing things. Now, how does that translate to better food? With the new executive chef, better facilities will be able to hopefully do that. But we want to hear from you as well. If you have a concern about something you're eating or a price, whatever, Steve is great. Steve Turner is great to respond to those, and he's going to give you the real answer. There's no sugarcoating it. Sugarcoating, right? Okay. Then we got that one. Let's see. What amenity do you as a GM use the most? Well, this one. I'm here every day. But besides this, I really, for me, I've really got the mountain biking bug, so I try and get out when I can and mountain bike as much as I can in this area. And I also use the gym here quite a bit. So those are probably the two amenities I probably use the most. Amenity mountain biking throughout the area has been a lot of fun. If there's a pack of people, I'm usually the last one going up the hill. So that's usually me. And if John Groom or John Mitchell ask you to go mountain biking with them, just think about it. I have not. Let's see. If you had to pick your top 3 accomplishments in this year, what would they be? Oh, that's a good question. Gosh, that is a good question. I think for me, the biggest accomplishment is just working with our staff. I mean, to me, I mentioned it earlier today, but I don't know if there's an appreciation out in the association for what your staff had to do with at home, because like I said, all of the issues you've been dealing with at home with COVID and things like that, they've had to do that, but they're still working 40, 50, 60 hours a week depending on their position. So, one of the things we talk about is we don't want to let you see us sweat, and that may change today. But I think that's been my proudest accomplishment, is working with our staff and seeing how committed they are to you out here, but also understanding what's happening behind the scenes with their home life and all the different challenges that we deal with on a daily basis as well. The other accomplishment, I would say, I think getting the capital projects squared away has been important. I think getting the capital projects department, getting some additional resources there. There's a lot of things that the association, want to see, as we do too. So I think getting that right, getting that staff up is going to be important, and hopefully we'll see these projects continue to roll out. I think the member portal it's been good and bad at the same time. I think we had expectations that the interface between membership, looking at board books and board information, things like that, would be seamless. That's not the case. Those of you who try to maneuver that, feels like it's the very first piece of software that ever came out, like DOS. Is it kind of, remember that? And so what we've done is we realized that it's not as efficient as we'd hoped from that piece of it. I do believe the assessment piece and looking at your accounts and that is really what we purchased it for. To give a little bit of history, we purchased that to replace Solomon, which is where our accounting software was. We saw other abilities through that, through the ability for you to pay your assessment on that, track where you are in your accounts, being able to get away from Llama, which was the planning software we had, and being able to do all of the ASO and all the covenants work, and having one-stop shop for that. So I think from that perspective, it's been a success, but we certainly have some work to do on what that engagement looks like. And so you've seen us said, whoops, we actually moved everything that we put in the member portal with regards to board meetings and committee meetings. We brought that back out and put that in the website, and you'll probably see a website redo in the next 18 to 24 months. Our website's getting a little stale as well, so that's something that is on Lindsay's desk. So I think that is good. It's 11:42. Does anybody have a question that they want to shout out while we got some time, or not, which is fine too. Just so you know, we're going to have burgers and hot dogs, I believe. Is that the menu, Steve? Burgers and hot dogs? It's going to be burgers and yes, I got a thumbs up. Burgers and hot dogs and drinks, so that'll start. Just so you know, we're going to make the announcement of the new board at noon, and then we're going to go upstairs and do an organizational meeting, which takes about 20 minutes or so, and that's when we elect the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. We'll talk about training, we'll talk about scheduling and things like that, and the board will come back down. So that's typically what happens at noon. But with that, unless there's anybody has some questions for myself or anybody else, can I say meeting? Oh. I can keep talking, but I don't know if people want to hear me. So we got 13 minutes. Inspector of Elections will be here, and he'll be able to. At that point, he will announce the new board. So, yes, ma'am. I will take a comment. Absolutely. It depends.
For their ability to keep us informed. Oh, I'd like to thank the staff and the board for keeping us informed during COVID. I attended a bunch of Zoom meetings, and I just appreciate how hard they were working.
Thank you. Michael has a question.
Yeah, if there is a kind of fire event in the community, where's the closest fire station? Where's the response come from? How long does it take?
Yeah, so the closest response is from our Station 92. That's right down there by Wild Cherries and the school. And we can get up here, in about 10 minutes. And then, there's response coming from other areas. We have an fire station out at the airport, and they come up the backside frequently, up Alder Creek Road and Shushing or Fjord, however we need to come in. So we come into Tahoe Donner from a couple different ways. Pretty quick response. Yeah, so we do have a fire station here in the community. That's Station 94. It's up there by the lodge and the golf course. And that's what we call a resident station. And so that station is not one of our 24/7 staffed stations. We use that for employee housing, and so we offer that to our employees who are, trying to find a foothold on this housing market. And we do have equipment parked there, and that equipment is available to respond if that firefighter is in fact in-house. But it's not 24/7.
Thank you, David. Is there some reason that today the downhill ski, which is a very important, expensive project, which will have a major impact on our reserves, hasn't been mentioned at all?
No. The board made a decision to move forward with it. The project is moving forward. It's nothing else to report at this point. I mean, as those significant items come up, we'll report out, but there really isn't a lot to report at this point.
Hi, my name is Bob.
Hi, Bob.
A couple things. One, I think you said, Steve, a little earlier that our reserve funding is now at 38%. It's something I've tracked the last 4 years. I think 4 years ago it was in the 25% range. I want to congratulate the board for increasing that. This is a unique development because you have income generating properties. Typically, an HOA reserve requirement wants 75% funding or greater. So I understand that we don't need to meet that requirement. So I'm very pleased to see the 38. I'm wondering if you have a target you're working for that goes beyond that. So that's one question. The second comment I want to make is I just took the survey that you have about the rec fee. I think Tahoe Donner's surveys are fabulous. I think they do an excellent job. I think the survey qualities are really good. And I just want to go on record to say that what we pay for this SPOR membership is the cheapest thing on the planet. I don't know that anyone can justify it. My suggestion is that you have one membership for the $450 a year. You give 3 free ones because it's really a great deal, and I'd be happy to pay more for the quality of services we get. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm gimping here. I twisted my knee last weekend, and the only thing athletic I did was play golf. I hit out of a ditch on number 15, and I think I might have done something. Bob, thank you for your question. Look, I'd like to take credit for improving our replacement reserve ratio, which is now at 38%, which you mentioned. But prior boards, prior leadership within the Finance Committee recognized that we were woefully underfunded and started that process years ago. So I applaud them for their foresight and their courage. No one wants to see their assessments go up, but maintaining our facilities to a high standard has a big impact on our home values. And for many of us, it's our single largest investment. Our current policy is that we have a minimum of 25% funding ratio. I'm just one board member. I'd like to see us continually nudge that up. Candidly, this is the year when we'll have a complete reserve study done. We'll have updated figures on replacement cost, our 30-year funding cycle. I would bet you a bag of donuts that 38% will probably decline as we true up our numbers. But that's just one element of it. The other side of it is our development fund. And so we've been pushing that pretty hard to take care of the ski lodge and other things. It's just not the ski lodge that's going on here. So we do all of that, of course, with our sense and our appreciation for the support that the homeowners provide us. And that's counterbalanced by our responsibilities under the Davis-Sterling HOA Act here to make sure that we maintain well what we own. So thank you for your support, and thank you for your kind comments.
Hi, this is a non-financial question. And I know that Tahoe Downer is not completely responsible for the roads, and my name is Amy. But I live on Northwoods. There's a lot of speeding. I run with my dog. I walk my son. I know, and there's someone who has a gorgeous BMW convertible. It's beautiful. If it probably. And I appreciate that you love that car, and I would love it too. But please keep it under 40 miles an hour, because I'm running and I get blown over, and I see cyclists, being moved by the back wind of the cars, and I'm just wondering how we could appeal to someone to get an extra stop sign up by Slalom, or maybe, I don't know if those speeding signs that say slow down work. But anyway, I know it's not a Tahoe Downer management problem, but it's just something that maybe we could address with the town.
Sure.
I need to go to the town and talk to them. And thank you very much.
I think it goes back. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think it goes back to the relationship we're building with the town. So I'll be able to, and that actually did come up when we met with the mayor and the town manager. So we will be. That's a conversation I can have with the interim police chief as well. So. That is one thing I actually, when I first moved here, I lived on Northwoods, so I got to see that. But yeah, it's something we can certainly talk to the town about. You're right, it is the town, but if we can continue to communicate with the town what those important items are, then we'll continue to do that. Thanks. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is David Homrake. I live on Alder Creek Road, and I second what you said about speeding, except it's worse. They're doing 45, 50 miles an hour easily up and down the hill there. I know there's a little sign at the bottom by the campground that says slow down, you're going too fast, but most people don't blow right by that. They don't look at it anymore. And I spoke to the folks at OES. The fellow there is a former policeman, and he said that they like to get out and try to patrol, but they're limited and everything else. But I think it takes emphasis, probably as an organization, to say we need to enforce the speeds here. So I'd certainly like to pass that along, and I agree with what she said.
Sure. Yeah, maybe next year we'll have the police chief here. So, see what I can do. Any questions? All right, so, there you go.
Yeah, I had a question on e-bikes. Are they now allowed on all the trails?
So e-bikes, talk to John Groom right behind you. E-bikes are going to be part of the Trails Open Space Master Plan, but I believe there's a pilot program which allow e-bikes on some of our trails. Is that correct, John? Yes. Okay. Well, with that, we got about 5. Oh, Denise. John Groom, can you speak to e-bikes? Because it seems like it's a topic of interest. Give John the...
Okay, that seems like a good distance. Currently, e-bikes are authorized on the dirt roads in Tahoe Donners, but with the adoption of the Trail Master Plan that we've been working on for the past 8 months with the Trails and Open Space Committee and the staff, e-bikes will be managed under that plan. So we've got a ton of good input. I know that e-bikes are out there right now But if you give us just a couple more weeks, I think that we'll have a very well laid out plan for integrating e-bikes into the current recreation that we have here.
Thanks, John. With that, I think we are going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break, and then the Inspector of Elections will be up here. Thanks.
Checking my tongue in the mirror and bending over backwards just to try to see it clearer, but my breath fogged up the glass, and so I drew a new face and I laughed. I guess what I've been saying is there ain't no better reason to rid yourself of vanities and just go with the seasons. It's what we aim to do. Our name is our virtue, but I won't hesitate no more. No more, it cannot wait. I'm yours. Open up your mind and see like me. Open up your plans and damn, you're free. I look into your heart and you'll find that the sky is yours. So please don't, please don't, please don't. There's no need to complicate, 'cause our time is short. This is all, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. I'd like to begin by recognizing those people who have dedicated the past 60 days or so of their life, and I'm sure it seems like at least 120, having been through it myself. And I will also add that whatever you experience during this campaign, it is merely practice for what's sitting on the board is like. In no particular order, because I don't remember what order they were on the ballot and so on, so this is not following a random order against protocol. If you're here, just raise your hand. I want to acknowledge all the candidates. Eric Klein. Benjamin Levine. Cheryl Cross. And Jim Roth, who is unable to be with us today. He's in a family reunion in Alaska. With that, we'll introduce Brett Collinson. The elections and the whole process is governed by an inspector of elections, which is independent of the board. So, Brent?
Thank you, Don. Just following up on what Don said. Yeah, thank you to the candidates for putting themselves out there. Also, the elections committee, Betty, Nan, Charlene, Maureen, and Steve, Patty, and the entire Tahoe Donner staff has helped out as well. Also, Bill Saylor of the Bernard Vogler and Company CPAs in Reno. They did all the counting. Having said that, we'll move forward. These technically are preliminary results until they are certified by Mr. Saylor, which will be tomorrow morning. We certainly don't expect any change, but he has to do his formal report. There were 6,475 members eligible to vote, making the 25% quorum 1,619. We received 2,480 ballots, which is 38.3%, which is a good turnout. Out of those ballots received, 2,467 were counted, 13 were disqualified. Most of them is because they weren't signed. There were 2,435 ballots cast. 32 ballots were for quorum purposes only. Out of the ballots cast, there were 4,643 votes because some people only voted for one candidate. With that information, I'll go down in the order that they were on the ballot as to how many votes were received by each candidate. Cheryl Cross received 1,088 votes. Jim Roth received 1,142 votes. Benjamin Levine received 1,415 votes. Eric Klein received 998 votes. Therefore, the top two vote getters are Jim Roth and Benjamin Levine.
That concluding the agenda for today, I will entertain a motion from the board to adjourn our annual meeting and adjourn our continued meeting for the purposes of vote count. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion. Second. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Meeting stands adjourned. Cue the music. Oh, one more announcement.
So just one more last announcement. We're going to go to the organizational meeting upstairs for anybody who wishes to see who gets elected as the chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer. That's going to take place now. Those results will be announced on Monday as well. Or you can go and enjoy the food in the company. Thank you.
And if I could be so bold, I'm going to invite the board members who have to go upstairs and miss the rest of the picnic to kind of the front of the line. I, for one, need some food.